about what transpires when it comes to us as black folks. We come out of the womb knowing we've got to be twice as good to get half as much. This is not new.
No, it isn't.
And as a result of that, one would argue we're at a decisive disadvantage at times. Okay, fine. There's racism, there's prejudice out there. Yes, that's true. Not in every case, not in all cases, but in some cases, fine. We just have to be careful when we make that argument. I've invited Joy Reid on this show, and I'm looking forward to her accepting my invitation so we can talk. Let me tell you how I feel about Joy Reid first. I respect the hell out of this woman. She is highly intelligent, very, very knowledgeable, very passionate. She has a lot to say. She is more than a conscientious observer. And she is fearless in calling out what she believes to be inequities, unfairness, and the like anywhere, but especially as it pertains to the black community, and obviously as it pertains to leftists, to folks on the left. She is a Democrat. I'm not saying whether she's a Democrat officially or not. I'm just saying she leans left. Obviously, if you're on MSNBC, that is the belief. But we can't stop there, y'all. I saw what Megyn Kelly said about her and how Megyn Kelly basically, to some degree, took joy in her being axed. I take no joy in seeing Joy Reid axed from that time slot. As the reports go, she was making about an annual salary in the range of about $3 million a year. I don't want any money taken out of her pocket. But when we want to bring up race as the cause for her being gone, I don't think we're serving ourselves well. Michael Steele is going to be there as well as a replacement, along with Alicia. And you got to remember Menendez is right there as well. It's hard to make the race argument when her replacements are reported to be three individuals that already have a weekend show on the network, and they're going to be inserted in the network. And I'm just reading from the reports here, okay? I have not spoken to Joy Reid. I don't know. I've had the pleasure of meeting her on a couple of occasions. I certainly respect her. And I'm not here to castigate her in any way, but we do have to talk about the business in a very, very honest and fair fashion. Joy Reid was incredibly outspoken against the Trump administration, as has always been the case. Since election, her ratings have dropped by 47%. 47%. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't keep your job when stuff like that happens. You just don't. The business doesn't allow for that to happen. When you rate high, tolerance is high. When you rate low, tolerance is low. Let's look at the reports from here. It talked about how Reid will be replaced at the 7 p.m. hour by a trio of MSNBC weekend hosts, former Kamala Harris advisor Simone Sanders, anti-Trump Republican Michael Steele, and Alicia Menendez, the daughter of former Democratic Senator and convicted felon Bob Menendez, okay? That's what it says here in the report, okay? It goes a bit further. The readout suffered a major slump, this is according to Newsweek. The readout suffered a major slump in ratings since the 2024 election. Nielsen Media Research revealed that Reid's show averaged around 759,000 viewers in early December, a 47% decline from the 1.4 million average it achieved in 2024 leading up to the election day. Her ratings basically damn near cut in half. On an estimated 3.4 million in the same slot. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 3.4 million to 778,000. That can't be ignored. When we make the argument and we want to bring race into the equation, we got to have it. We got to have the evidence. It can't be subliminal. It can't be something that's assumed. It can't be something that can that is rife with plausible deniability. We got to know it. Now, if you want to sit up there and say Trump had something to do with it, that's fine, because he's coming after them. He's coming after G. He's coming after Mr. Brian Robbins for Comcast and their left-leaning, a news outlet. Or a channel, rather. He's definitely doing that. We already seen him sue ABC and George Stephanopoulos. We already see him going after MSNBC. Donald Trump had an instant comment on Joy Reid on his Truth Social platform in the immediate aftermath of her being let go, dissing her and enjoying her departure. He's coming after folks. So now what it does is it provokes a bigger conversation about the networks themselves. And what are they going to stand up for? Or are they going to be strictly about their bottom line and kowtow to the president of the United States? Because he's coming for folks that he deems enemies. He's made no apologies nor any secret about it. That's what he's doing. And if you're going to support Joy Reid, the best way for you to do it was to make sure she didn't suffer a 47% drop in ratings. See, we don't do that enough. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm qualified to talk about this subject. Ladies and gentlemen, I will remind you that I had a show named Quite Frankly on ESPN2 from 2005 to 2007. I will remind you that it got canceled in 2007 after I did about 381 shows and I had about 785 guests. We didn't have enough viewers. The cost that it took to have that show on the air, to pay for all of the overhead that came with it, wasn't worth it because the ratings said so. And one of the things that I remember most is folks coming up to me. Oh, man, I love your show. Man, I watch it every day. You the man, Stephen A. The show had been canceled 6 months earlier. How the hell you watch me every day? It had been canceled 6 months earlier. See, we talk. But if you really, really want to be helpful in knowing this business, if you really, really wanted to be helpful to Joy Reid, the time to support her would it be now over digital airwaves and everywhere else while everybody's speaking and up in arms that her show got canceled. The time would have been to make sure that even in the aftermath of that election, that 1.4 million audience that she was drawing in prior to the election is the same audience that would have been there after the election. That's how you keep folks on the air. You didn't do that.
Now, Stephen A. made some very good points here. But he's trying to blame, seems like he's targeting black folks and saying, we didn't do that. Like we were the reason Joy Reid got fired. There's politics even in ratings. You know that. You know that. There's lies within the numbers. Not everyone who watches CNN are Republican, but there are some Republicans that might watch CNN. Once you make it divisive and say, well, this is for the left, that's for the right, and say Republicans have Fox, Democrats got CNN. Once you draw the line in the sand, you're automatically going to lose people. Now, if she was saying something that was true, because I haven't seen Donald Trump sue Joy Reid, so did she say something that was, grounds for her to be sued? No, he was suing a lot of people. He didn't sue Joy Reid. So that to me is a big telling there. And I didn't take it as him coming after Joy Reid, but to reiterate that we should be afraid of Donald Trump. That's where I have a problem. And you seem to be beating this horn, blowing that bugle. The man's coming. The man's coming. He's coming. He's not playing around. That man's coming. Oh, the man's coming. It's okay if you're a scared man, if you're afraid, but to try to be penny wise and perpetuate the fear through everybody, you're fear baiting. The man's coming. Coming where? Doing what? You see, Stephen, this is why we don't really respect you in that manner. Because the way you move is so grimy that I don't see how anyone can respect you. Now, with all of this being said, Stephen A. Smith, which I never covered, went back and forth with Carrie Champion and made statements, to somebody that really wasn't trying to come after him at all. She was just defending Carrie Champion, who is her friend and former colleague at ESPN. And for Black women to really stick together in a place where the energy level had shifted, it was clear that there were directions that the company were going in that was seeming to be, like, we're going to blame all of you guys for making this a anti-Trump, company. And we're not that. So you had a lot of people who was putting pressure on James Smith. And shouts out to that brother doing what he's doing, because that man took an ultimate sacrifice. And of course, Jemele Hill. So she became the target after calling out Trump on Twitter, making her comments on Twitter. And they thought those was grounds for her to be suspended and taken off the air. So she was like, fine, I never really wanted to be on television anyway. She went back to writing for a couple of shows because that's what she does. She's a writer. And now she's off the show, off the network. And she hasn't been there in years. And it probably was the best thing for her. But they told her, right, we don't do politics. We do sports. Now, ever since she left, there's been nothing but politics. Everything is politics mixed with sports. They just didn't want her doing it. It was okay then, because once she was out, then here comes the Will Canes and everybody else. And it's like, okay, well, you guys are talking politics on the show all the damn time now. Oh, you just didn't want us talking about politics. We get it. So again, none of this is addressed by Stephen A. Smith, but he seems to lash out at Black women and have a lot of energy for them when they don't toe the line or speak their truths. Instead of letting them have their moment, even though Carrie Champion and him, he viewed them as friends and colleagues, but they're supposed to stand around and let you attack another Black woman. They just had enough because they seen the energy shift in you. When you're giving your message to Blacks and when you give them to whites, your energy level is entirely different. So this is what they're pointing out. You are a harsh critiquer when it comes to the African American community, as if you're the pillar of what African Americans should be. Docile, shoulders slumped in, do anything for a check. Yes, you're a hard worker. You're going to be on time. These are the things about you these qualities that, yes, Black people should have these qualities. To be a hard worker, to be on time. But when you work for yourself and build something for yourself to make yourself invaluable, That speaks value. See, ESPN created a monster with you because they put themselves in a position that you become the face of the company almost. So to lose you to another network when they don't have anything else to really replace you by, you know, that kind of loses its grip on what they really are trying to do and accomplish. Now, let's listen to what happened with him and Carrie.
At least I thought I knew. And that's Miss Carrie Champion. Carrie Champion is a person that used to host First Take, used to work at ESPN, used to do Sports Nation, stuff like that. Did a pretty damn good job too. And I have to tell you, I was taken aback, and I think the word shocked does apply when it came to this Michelle Beadle brouhaha and seeing Carrie Champion say this about me. Please play cut number 7.
Stephen A. I played that Michelle Beadle clip for one reason and one reason only. I'm old enough to remember being on that show and getting in trouble based on some comments you said about women and whether or not they should know their place when it comes to abuse or non-abuse. Ray Rice comes to mind. Not going to get into the details of all of that. But Beadle just came for you yet again, like she did when I worked at ESPN. I wonder, do you have that same smoke for her that you have for Jasmine Crockett, that you have for Michelle Obama, that you sometimes display for me and Jamel Hill? Do you have that same smoke? I'm sick of it. Keep the same energy. And I call you and I root for you and I say, hey, I got your back. I'm happy for you. But you keep that same energy, sir, for everybody.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You just said, Carrie, you called me, you root for me. Why would you root for somebody that called you out in Jamel Hill, who's your good friend? Because it's never happened. Never. I've shown you nothing but love. What are you talking about? You are hired. You stayed as long as you stayed and had the support of the people that supported you because of me. Do I need to get bosses to confirm that I'm telling the truth? You know I can. When we see the diverse people that come on First Take, Black people, women, the list goes on and on. Who did that? That wasn't happening when Skip was there. That was me. What are you talking about? When have I spoken against you? When have I thrown shade against you? When did that happen? That is a lie. Me, dogging Carrie Champion, when? And if I did it, why did you call me and root for me? What are you sick of? Or did you just want the attention? You see, we're going to have a deeper discussion right here and now because I'm sick of this. And I'm not going to be scared by women that I have loved on for many, many years as a colleague and as a contemporary and watching folks back. It doesn't mean everything that I'm going to do is going to please you. But y'all are talking without facts. We want to talk about, like Michelle Beadle talked about, and other people talk. Ask John Skipper. Ask Connor Shell. Ask Norby Williamson. I'm usually not supposed to give out names, but what I'm saying to y'all is, whether it's Dave Roberts, it's a Burt Magnus, it's a Jimmy Pitaro, or anybody else, ask them my support for numerous people that have walked through the walls of ESPN, including you and Jamel Hill. What are you talking about?
So, Stephen A. Smith made it seem and appear as if it was he who made it the opportunities for Jamel Hill and Carrie Champion. Jamel Hill was hired and Stephen A. Smith had nothing to do with it. She was on First Take before Stephen A. even got there, when it was cold pizza. She was already on the show. Stephen A. had nothing to do with that. Stephen A. Smith has absolutely zero to do with Jemele Hill's success. He was bitter at them because he wanted the ESPN Sports Center at 6 p.m. He wanted that spot, and he wanted to leave mornings. They got the show instead of him because he said something stupid about women on the platform, and it cost him the 6 p.m. Sports Center spot. And it went to Jemele Hill and Michael Smith. And because of that, he's had this axe to grind when he clearly acted as if he was supportive. If you saw support from him to Jemele Hill, it was from afar. He never had their back. He was the company's back. And that is the golden rule. That is the truth. Stephen A. don't talk about that. He should bring that up. He should mention that. What did you say that cost you the 6 p.m. Sports Center job? Tell the world, Stephen. The world would like to know. They would like to hear why. But it don't stop there. No, it don't stop there.
On. I want to talk about how I first arrived at ESPN. Very grateful for that opportunity. Best moment, highlight moment of my career. I remember the year might have been 2010 or 2011. I was working at the Tennis Channel, and the agent that I had at the time knew a man by the name of Joy Reid. Shout out to Jerry. And Jerry and I somehow got connected over email, and I would send my resume reel to Jerry, and Jerry said, "Come to Bristol. I'll meet with you whenever you have time." And then the way I was like, well, let me just book a ticket and say I'll happen to be in the area. And so I booked a ticket on my own, paid for my own hotel, and I stood in the lobby of ESPN and I waited for Jerry Madelon to meet with me. He met with me for a few. He talked to me about my resume. When he realized I came from California, he said, "Wow, you came from a long way. My bad. Let me see if somebody else can meet with you." And over the next day or so, day and a half, I met with other people, thanks in large part to Jerry Madelon. But he said to me, "I don't have a job for you, Miss Champion, but when I do, I'll let you know. In the meantime, keep sending me your reel in the work that you're doing, and we'll just keep in touch." And that's what I did. For the next 6 months to the year, I sent him my reel. We kept in touch. One day he called me and said, and I'm speeding this up for you, he said, "There's an opening on First Take. Are you interested?" And I said, "Of course." I went and auditioned. And in that audition, I sat next to Skip and Stephen A. And I read the prompter and I pretended to do faux debates, right? It was not real debates. It was after they filmed their live show. It wasn't a real debate. And I left thinking, oh, I did pretty well. And I felt like I might get the job. I'm not for sure. Not necessarily 100% sold, but I do know that I did a good job on that audition reel, if I'm going to keep it a buck with you. Had a few, well, it wasn't perfect, but for the most part, pretty good. Post-mortem with producers, I talked to Skip afterwards. He said, explained to me how the show was high profile and that things would change for me once I got on that show. And he was like, and you have to be careful because the show isn't your traditional show. It can go anyway. Like you could be on the show and he was explaining really what was going on. And he said, you really won't understand what the show is like until you're on the show. And I remember talking to Stephen A. And Stephen A. was like, look, this is Skip's show. In short, he was like, if you like it, I love it. Meaning if Skip is on, I'm on board, but this is Skip's show. And I said, bet. And I remember being giddy and happy and just grateful. And then I met with Jamie Horowitz, who was the boss who had to give the final okay, from my understanding. And he said, I'm going to send you to one more boss. And his name was John. And I went to, not John Skipper, but I went to another boss and I talked to that boss. And that boss was like, yep, okay, well, welcome. I don't recall how instrumental Mr. Smith was, Stephen A. Smith, but I'm sure he absolutely had to sign off as well. But I want to say the person who found me, discovered me, scouted me out is Jerry Madelon, and I thank you. And that is my story time, ladies and gentlemen. And if I'm really honest with you and I'm keeping it a buck, my Father in heaven, Jesus Christ, he is my kingmaker. He is the one who knew that I would have this opportunity. He was the one who made sure that I would shine. And so I am thankful and grateful to my Father, Jesus Christ. Thank you very much. Now, with that being said, I want to say to Jemele Hill, I didn't mean to put you in a war, my friend. You just jumped in with me, and I appreciate you. Very similar and reminiscent of old days. So I thank you. I see you. I appreciate you. You didn't have to do it, but I love you, sis. To Mr. Smith, I'm not looking for attention. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not jumping out looking for attention. In fact, many of your folks said, where's she been? I'm like, I'm good. Life is good. No complaints. And with that being said, I am not a liar. I will say this. Everyone has their own truth. You could have your truth. I can have my truth. The truth probably is somewhere in the middle if you brought in some impartial people. But I have no reason to lie. I am not a liar. I have no reason to lie. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? No reason. But I am, Stephen A. Smith, grateful for the platform you shared with me. And I understand what that meant to you and to Skip Bayless during that time. But I know what I know. I lived it. And I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty details. Y'all don't need to know. Ain't none of y'all business. I am not a liar. No need to do that. I'm telling you right now, in Jesus' name, amen.
So, Carrie Champion gives you the broad strokes. Stephen A. tried to make it look like it was his word that got her on First Take. If it wasn't for him, she wouldn't be there. When she told the story, it sounded just like Stephen A. Oh, well, it's Skip's show. It's not me. If Skip says it's okay, then I'm okay. The way Stephen A. words it and try to tells it makes it look like he was the end all be all, like Skip wasn't on board and they had to go in there together. Jamie Horowitz said, if you're already on board, that's going to help me out when, we pitch it with Skip. Because Skip ultimately has to sign off because it's his show. Even though the bosses control it, it's Skip's show. So Skip gets to say the yay and the nay and what goes and what doesn't go. Now, since then, I couldn't tell you a single soul that watched First Take. I'm literally telling you the truth. I don't know who watches that show. So after being called out, Stephen A. came up with some more. So Joy Reid, who 9 months ago was let go from her show on MSNBC, right? And Carrie Champion pulls up with Joy Reid on the show. She has not mentioned Stephen A. Smith since and has not, of course, accepted his invitation to come on his show. So she goes on Carrie Champion's show. Once she starts seeing like all of this, vitriol that he has for African-American women. And here we go.
He was talking about your show. What did he say about your show? And then you had to respond.
He said I got fired for ratings. And I'm like, excuse me, sir. You got $100 million for a show with half my ratings at my worst. I had to literally Google his numbers. I'm like, how many people listen to the show? Is it like 4 million people? Oh, wait, it's like what, 500,000 people? Dude, that's like average CNN. That's not that high. They're paying you not for your numbers, my friend. They're paying you because you are willing to say the nasty things about Black people that they want to say.
Joy Reid unloaded on Stephen A. Smith.
Yep. The nasty things about Black people that they want to say. And you can see the look on Carrie's face. She was a Black woman doing golf. Do you know how hard that is to be there, then to go to ESPN? The level of abuse she would have to go through. You know what the tennis world looked like? Well, I mean, the Tennis Channel.
To former First Take host Carrie Champion.
You're willing to take their denigration of Black women and put it in the mouth of a Negro. And because you're willing to put the denigration of Black women in particular into a Negro's mouth, if you now think that, oh, I must be a freaking political genius, but just be clear, you're not being paid for your numbers. You're being paid for what you're willing to do to us for white people's entertainment. And as long as you cool with that, bruh, keep being you. But don't come for my friends. Don't come for people that I know their value and try to devalue them in front of all the Black women who can see and hear you, because we know what you're doing.
This has been a sentiment for some time.
He's got to deal with Black woman issues
Oh my
writ
God.
large, and whatever self-hate exists within him.
That is self-hate.
I've never seen a clip of him where he actually praises a Black woman.
That's what I'm saying. He's got
something
Black woman issue. He's got to deal with.
Because if you listen to Stephen A. Smith and you find anything other than some absolute pure self-hating little dick energy nonsense from that half-witted idiot basking in the non-existent rays of his own ignorance, it is sad to me that he even gets an audience of Black men. Why aren't Black men right now saying, Stephen A. Smith, we banned him, we're not listening to his podcast, we're not watching his show anymore? That's what Black women do. We organize.
There are a lot of Black men who question whether or not they have the ability to breathe and lead in an era of Black girl magic.
But I also think the brother's also trying to get and maintain and grow a bag. And he's similar to a lot of Black Republicans who ideologically could not articulate anything worth mentioning, are out here caping because they're not in competition with Bakari Sellers or Andrew Gillum. But they're at the front of the line on that side because they're willing to say the things that white people think and don't get to say with license. But they got you, cape and clown, who's willing to say it,
Right.
and they get rewarded for it.
Native Land Pod's Angela Ross.
Now, that's the truth. So, you're not paid $100 million, Stephen A., because you're good at your job, that you're titled. You're doing 500,000 views. And before that, it was lower. And they gave you $100 million deal. So it's not about you being this great individual or this genius. They pay you because you're saying things that the company want a Black face to say. We know it. You think this picture doesn't speak words? Anybody who sees this understands exactly what this photo means. The fence ain't even high on the plantation. It don't need to be. Because you don't want to leave. You happy right where you at. And this is why you have the issues that you do. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out. Yes, sir. Thank you guys for the cash apps. My Patreon is Carcino for life. And yeah, we
Hi, I'm Carcino.